My son's wheelchair stopped halfway down the ramp, and that's when I realized our HOA had secretly cut the power. The HOA didn't just threaten us, they shut off my disabled son's ramp during a storm. I used to think that moving into an HOA neighborhood meant security. Quiet streets, speed bumps, matching mailboxes, families walking dogs in the evening. After years of hospital visits and constant stress, that's all I wanted for my son, Lucas, a calm place to grow up. Lucas was 10 when we moved into Maple Ridge Estates. He has spastic cerebral palsy and uses a motorized wheelchair. Walking more than a few shaky steps just isn't possible for him. So for us, accessibility isn't decoration. It's survival. The first thing we did after moving in was install a metal wheelchair ramp and a small electric lift from our front door down to the driveway. The city inspector approved it. The contractor followed every safety code. To Lucas, it was more than equipment. It was freedom. He'd roll up and down the ramp, laughing, calling it his launch pad. For a little while, everything felt normal. Until the day I met Diane. Officially, she was the HOA president. Unofficially, everyone called her Karen. She had the perfect hair, the clipboard, the permanent frown that made you feel guilty just for existing. One afternoon, she knocked on our door. I opened it, and her eyes immediately flicked past me to the ramp. "I'm Diane," she said. "I oversee community standards here." She handed me a thick binder. "These are the covenants. We value uniformity in Maple Ridge. It keeps property values high." Her gaze settled on the ramp like it was graffiti. "That structure wasn't in your original application," she added. "We'll need to review it." "It's my son's wheelchair ramp," I explained. "He can't get out of the house without it. The city already approved it." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "We'll be in touch." At the time, I honestly thought she would sign off and move on. I was wrong. The first notice arrived 2 weeks later. A crisp white envelope with the Maple Ridge HOA logo sat in our mailbox. Inside, neat black letters shouted louder than any scream. Notice of architectural non-compliance. According to the letter, our ramp broke several rules: wrong color, extended too far, disrupted neighborhood cohesion. The final line made my stomach drop. "Please remove or relocate the ramp within 30 days to avoid fines and further action." Remove the ramp? And do what? Carry my growing son down the steps like luggage every time we left the house? I called the number at the bottom. Diane answered on the second ring. "I think there's been a mistake," I said. "The ramp is medically necessary." "My son." "I'm aware of your son," she cut in. "But we have rules. If we make an exception for you, everyone else will want one. We can't have random structures all over the neighborhood." "It's not random," I snapped. "It's accessible housing. It's his only safe way in and out." She sighed impatiently. "You may submit a variance request in writing. Until it's approved, the ramp is non-compliant. Fines will apply." Then she hung up. The next month was a blur of paperwork and stress. I wrote the variance request. Our doctor wrote a detailed letter explaining Lucas's condition. I attached the city permit, photos, everything. We emailed, called, waited. Meanwhile, more letters arrived. Second notice. Final warning. Notice of daily fines. Each envelope felt like a threat shoved into our mailbox. Lucas noticed. He's smart. He saw me flinch every time I checked the mail. He heard the tension in my voice when I talked to Diane on the phone. One night, while I sat at the table surrounded by forms, he rolled up quietly. "Mom," he asked, "am I in trouble because of my chair?" The question nearly broke me. "No," I said, hugging him as tightly as his armrests allowed. "You're never in trouble for needing what you need. Some grown-ups just care more about rules than people." I thought that would be the end of it. Then came the storm. It hit on a Thursday afternoon. The sky turned from sunny blue to dark gray in minutes. Thunder rumbled, and my phone lit up with severe storm warnings: heavy rain, strong winds, possible hail. Lucas had a physical therapy appointment across town. If we left right away, we might beat the worst of it. "Let's go, buddy," I called. Rain's coming. He drove his chair to the front door, excited as always to show his therapist his progress. I grabbed his bag, my keys, and his emergency meds. I opened the front door. A light drizzle coated the ramp, shining under a flash of distant lightning. Okay, slow and careful, I reminded him. It's a little wet. He smiled and rolled forward. Halfway down the ramp, his wheelchair jerked. The usual smooth motor sound sputtered and died. His chair stopped at a weird angle, one back wheel still inside the doorway, the rest of the chair on the ramp. Mom, he said, voice shaking. My chair stopped. I checked the control panel. Full battery. But a red error light flashed. Then the porch light flickered and went out. Not the whole house, just the front hallway and porch. The exterior outlet next to the ramp went dead, and with it, the electric lift platform at the bottom of the ramp. Without power, the lift locked in place. No movement. No manual controls Lucas could reach. Rain started falling harder, cold drops blowing sideways onto his face. Mom, why isn't the ramp moving? He asked again, panic rising. I don't know, I said honestly, heart pounding. Hold still. I traced the power cable with my eyes from the lift along the side of the house to a small gray box beneath our electric meter. The panel door was hanging open, and taped neatly to the front of it, wrapped in plastic, was an HOA-branded note. Electrical service to unapproved exterior modification has been disconnected until compliance is achieved. Maple Ridge HOA. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. They had cut power to my disabled child's only safe exit, without telling us. Thunder cracked overhead. The drizzle became a wall of rain. Mom, I'm slipping, Lucas cried. His wheelchair tires were beginning to slide on the wet metal. The front wheels hovered dangerously close to the small gap where the ramp met the deadlift platform. If he tipped forward, he could fall. The chair could crush his legs. The electronics could short out entirely. Don't move, I ordered, trying to keep my voice steady. I've got you. I yelled for my husband. He ran from the back of the house, already drenched by the time he reached us. Together, we tried to pull the chair backward into the house, but it was heavy, more than 250 pounds with Lucas in it, and stuck at an angle. Every tug made the front wheels skid closer to the edge. The rain hammered down, soaking all three of us. Lucas started to cry, his teeth chattering. And then I saw her, Diane, standing across the street, under a big perfect umbrella. Dry. Watching. She didn't come to help. She didn't ask what was wrong. She just stared at us, clipboard tucked under her arm like this was some kind of performance. Something inside me snapped. What did you do? I screamed over the storm. She raised her voice just enough for me to hear. We disconnected unauthorized electrical work, she called back. For safety. You were warned. For safety. I shouted. My son is stuck on this ramp because of you. You should have removed it when we told you, she replied coolly. Non-compliance has consequences. My husband pulled out his phone. There's no need for emergency services. I'm calling 911. You're overreacting. That finally wiped the smug look off Diane's face. But it wasn't private anymore. She hurried closer. Within minutes, a fire truck and ambulance turned onto our street, red and blue lights cutting through the rain. The firefighters didn't care about HOA matters. They cared about the scared 10-year-old stuck on a ramp in a thunderstorm. They stabilized Lucas's chair, used special tools to release the lock on the lift, and carefully lowered him to the driveway. Then the paramedics loaded him into the ambulance to check for hypothermia and shock. One paramedic turned to me. How did this happen? He asked. I pointed at Diane. She cut the power to his ramp, I said, shaking. Without telling us. She taped a note to the box. The paramedic looked at her, eyes cold. Ma'am, did you interfere with electrical equipment used for medical access? Diane swallowed. The ramp violates our bylaws. They refused to remove it. I'm not asking about bylaws, he interrupted. I'm asking if you knowingly disconnected power to a disabled child's accessibility device. She opened and closed her mouth like a fish. That was the moment I realized we weren't just dealing with a rude neighbor. We were dealing with someone dangerous. At the hospital, Lucas was treated for mild hypothermia and a severe anxiety attack. Physically, he was okay. Emotionally, he was shaken. He clung to my hand the entire time, flinching every time thunder rumbled outside. "What if the ramp stops again?" he whispered. "What if they turn things off while I'm outside?" I didn't have a simple answer. But I knew one thing. This would never happen again. I wouldn't let it. The doctor documented everything in his chart and looked me straight in the eye. "This is more than an inconvenience," she said. "This is negligence. You need to report it." So we did. We filed a police report. We contacted a disability rights lawyer. We sent copies of every HOA letter, every email, and photos of the open electrical box with Diane's note taped to it. When we got home, news of the incident had already started spreading through Maple Ridge. Neighbors who had once shrugged at Diane's strictness now saw it differently. The woman who used to complain about garbage cans and lawn heights had just put a child's life at risk. The HOA called an emergency meeting. I showed up with Lucas's hospital papers in my hand. The clubhouse was packed. People whispered in small groups, glancing at us, then at Diane, who stood at the front of the room looking much less confident than usual. "As you all know, there has been some confusion regarding a recent enforcement action," she started. "It wasn't confusion," I cut in. My voice shook, but I didn't sit down. "You cut power to my son's wheelchair ramp. He ended up in an ambulance. That's not confusion. That's cruelty." The room fell silent. One board member looked at Diane. "Is that accurate?" he asked quietly. She straightened. The ramp was unapproved. We followed procedure. They were given multiple written warnings. Another board member cleared her throat. "Were we told that the ramp was medically necessary?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Multiple times. With letters from his doctor. And you still chose property values over a child's safety." People started murmuring. Someone in the back muttered, "That's too far." Another person said, "I have a ramp for my mom. Is that next?" For the first time, Diane seemed to realize she'd lost the room. Our lawyer later sent a formal letter demanding the HOA restore power immediately, approve the ramp as a permanent medical necessity, and agree not to interfere with any future accessibility equipment. He also used two words that finally scared them: legal liability. The board voted, without Diane, to grant us a full variance, apologize in writing, and review all rules related to disability accommodations. They also quietly removed Diane as president. She still lives in the neighborhood, but now she walks past our house with her gaze fixed on the ground. Our ramp is still there. So is Lucas's chair. So is the little door over the electrical panel, now locked with our own padlock. Looking back, I learned something hard but important. Rules can be useful. But when people worship rules and forget about human beings, those rules become weapons. My son doesn't need perfection. He doesn't need matching mailboxes or approved paint colors. He needs a ramp that works. He needs a way out when it storms. He needs adults who care more about his life than their property values. If you live under an HOA, or you love someone with a disability, remember this. You are allowed to fight. You are allowed to say no. Because no rule should ever matter more than a child's safety.